Good morning, sunshine. Welcome to the Cup of Curious podcast with Will, where we talk pop culture, music, movies, faith, and more. So grab your favorite overpriced caffeinated drink and join the conversation. This is the Cup of Curious podcast. You're on, Will.
Family, what is going on? God bless you all. Welcome to the Cup of Curious podcast. And I just want to give you guys just a notice. If I don't sound as vibrant or as loud or as, it's because one, it's 1:22 in the morning. I'm cooking food for the week because I'm trying to eat healthy. So that's one. And also I just finished watching the series finale of a show I used to watch from a couple of years ago. I'm not going to tell you the show because I'm not trying to hear from nobody. But the series is something I used to watch a lot. Then I kind of drifted away from it, and because I heard this series finale was happening, I seen it, and I just when I say I just seen it like 2 minutes before putting on this podcast, and it threw me for a loop. Those who are close to me should probably know what that show is, and again, I'm not telling you because I ain't trying to hear from nobody. Anyway, so like always, I like to tell you guys about the drink that I'm drinking. I'm sorry, I'm realizing how tired I sound. But I got some vanilla almond milk here because almond milk is delicious. I'm not a vegan. I don't ever plan to be one. But almond milk is certainly delicious. So I recommend it for oatmeal, cereal, smoothies, and all that good stuff. So if you follow the Instagram page, you know that we're talking today about the influence of film. And this was really inspired by the recent, quote-unquote controversy that came from the movie The Joker. Now, I seen The Joker with my friend last weekend, and I will say it's not for everybody. I can see why some people supposedly walked out of it. There are some scenes in the movie that are very uncomfortable. But a lot of controversy came from the film because supposedly there were these attacks that people were planning in theaters or for the theaters that were supposedly inspired by the Joker, which is odd when you think about it because I think, and someone could correct me, it was The Dark Knight, not The Dark Knight. I think it was one of those Batman movies. It was the one, I think, featuring Bane that caused that shooting in a theater in Texas. Someone. I don't want to sound like I know, but when I don't. But yeah, it happened anyway, unfortunately. And if I remember, I think that person pleaded a mental illness case. But my thing is, are movies influential? I'm sorry if you heard that. That's a plastic bag next to me. I'm recording in my kitchen because, again, I am cooking. I ran a poll on my Instagram, my personal Instagram, asking people, do they think it's influential? Are films influential, whether it's good or bad? And around 90% said yes, 10% said no. And I think that speaks volumes. Because there are some people who, for good reasons, some people in a positive way gets influenced by a movie. If it's an inspirational film, they get inspired or influenced, and that's a good thing. That doesn't happen so often, though, if we're going to be realistic. A lot of these movies that are violent, negative, they tend to also influence very much. I'm sorry, if you heard that really long beep, that was the oven. That tells you that I'm not lying. I am in the kitchen. But yeah, if you there's been issues in the past where people have acted out because they were inspired by the movies. They want to be like real life villains, and they want to. Some are inspired by crime-based films. Some people are inspired, but they're inspired by the wrong thing. And that's something honestly to consider, is that inspiration isn't always necessarily a good thing because it depends on what exactly is inspiring you. Some people can be inspired by something such as, the Passion of the Christ, that movie came out a few years ago. I went to the theater to see that, and a lot of people felt the need to rekindle their faith. But in the same breath, there's been negative movies, be it, again, violent movie, R-rated films that have caused people to, hey, I want to do that. I can do that. Sometimes they do it for their own attention. They want that notoriety, XYZ. Now here's the issue though, because I'm not saying, because this kind of will tie itself to like other forms of media, and people like to tie gun violence to video games, or gun violence to sometimes even music. And here's my thing, is that some people want the censorship of movies to happen so badly. But in defense of film, it is an art form, right? And even though I'm a Christian, I believe as an American that we have the rights and freedoms of speech and freedom of expression as well. So that includes any form of art. So I think what happens is that, and I could be wrong, that some parents neglect to inform their children that, hey, this is just a movie, or this is just a song, that's just a video game. The video game's not really happening. The movie is exactly that, it's a movie. But at the same time, it's not the filmmaker's fault if a person is influenced, because that's not their intention. If a person makes a documentary about a criminal and they decide they want to reenact some of the crimes the criminal committed, it's not their fault if someone says, hey, I want to do the same thing. They're just doing their job as a film director or creator. Same thing with music videos, because some people were, I think, maybe a couple of months ago, I think it was this year, that Marilyn Manson did a video where he cut off the head of Donald Trump. I think that was this year. It could have been last year. I don't know. I honestly don't keep up with Marilyn Manson, but people were having a fit about that, and they think that inspired violence towards Trump. And it just goes on and so on and so forth. I am so sorry because I keep hitting this bag and it's getting into the feed. I personally think that because art is such a powerful thing, and when I talk about art, I'm speaking music. I'm speaking, video games is a form of art because it's created. Of course, film and television, these forms of art, while they are expressions of the artists, as history has shown us, people are influenced by it. So does that mean the creator has to be careful in what they produce? See, that's a hard question, because it's like we have responsibility, but at the same time we have freedom. We have freedom to express that. And I believe, and this is just a personal opinion, I believe that every form of art has an intent behind it. I know some people create with the idea to leave it open-ended for the consumer. That some people say, I created this, but I want the audience to decide, what it means. Open to interpretation, I believe the term is called. Now, that's fine, because people do that often, especially like with paintings and certain song lyrics and certain movie scenes. They want people to interpret that themselves. But what happens when someone interprets that to say, hey, this artist is telling me, inspiring me, influencing me to do something that's maybe societally, if that's a word, something that's frowned upon in society? I am considering people who have, mental health issues. I am considering those folk. I'm talking about people who have common sense, who still choose to act out because they say they're quote unquote influenced by it. You know that there are certain things that you shouldn't do as a human being, first and foremost. That you shouldn't do things that are against the law, regardless of what a song says, regardless of what a song may make you feel at some point. That kind of reminds me. A couple of years ago, I was in a recording studio with my brother in the faith, and we were working on a song that was kind of heavy metal-ish. And keyword being kind of, but it was actually really cool too, because we had a guitarist come in, and shout out to my boy Devin. I miss you, dude. And we were going for it, I was screaming, doing the whole metal thing, and well, my best version of it anyway. And after playing the song a few times, I remember my brother Dave saying, yo man, this makes me feel like breaking stuff and throwing stuff, flipping tables. And we laughed about it because it was funny, the idea that this song does that. But it reminds me, as we're talking about this today, that we creators, be it music, film, whatever, can create an atmosphere that can influence people. At the same time, while we are responsible for the creations we create, we're not responsible for how people receive it. And even if, for example, with that song, it was a song called Chaos, because I was doing a project called Chaos and Cosmos, but then my interests kind of shift. And the intent of Chaos was to basically present, our current state of society, the system and all that, in the chaotic state that it is in, and honestly that it's still in. So I wanted the sound to be chaotic. And we had ideas for the music video to be just as chaotic. But we never got the chance to do that, and maybe we can somewhere along the lines, but that was my intent. Now, my intent was for that. My intent isn't, if this song can come out, to make people go and break stuff and flip stuff and that's or hurt people, God forbid. That's not my intention when I created that song. And it's not my fault if this song gets created, if this song gets released, that someone hears it and just starts acting the fool. Not my intention. It's how you consumed it. And that's where I think we have to start being careful on how we consume content, because some people consume it with how can I say this? When it's like when you watch something funny, like when you watch a comedy movie or you watch something funny on YouTube, you watch and you consume with the intent to be entertained. Hey, I'm gonna watch these guys because they make me laugh and I feel like laughing, so I'm gonna consume this content in hopes that it makes me feel better, that it makes me laugh, makes me forget about the rough day I had. Or you watch and you watch a horror film, which we've talked about, I think maybe 2 podcasts back. If you're a Christian, that's besides the point. You watch a horror movie because you want to be entertained, and again, you want to forget about the day. You're not watching it because you're trying to see, how can I be a serial killer like Jason, or how can I, practice voodoo like Chucky did, or you don't watch it with that intention. At least I hope you don't. You're watching that stuff to be entertained. Same thing with action films and dramas and romances. You're watching that stuff because at the end of the day, you just want to be entertained, and maybe you have a favorite movie in those genres, and that's the main reason you watch it. Then you have something like The Joker, where I'm not going to give any spoilers, but maybe just in case, if you consider this a spoiler, I'm going to put a spoiler up. Spoiler. It kind of examines mental illness, because in the film, and again, someone most likely would correct me because I've only seen it once. The Joker is told that he has a condition where he laughs at the most inappropriate times. That's a mental condition, and he has more than that. Obviously, he has different kinds of problems in which he interacts with people, or how he sees people, how he thinks of people. There's this one part of the story where he has fallen in love with this girl at his apartment, and you think that they're hitting it off, and they are, okay, this is a spoiler, that they're hitting it off and they're having a great time, and what you're actually seeing is him fantasizing about it. It never happened. Because then at some point he gets into her apartment, And she's scared as crap because she don't know who he is. And you're wondering, well, how can that be? They were out dating and all that. Because in the film, we're seeing Joker's mind. In his mind, he was dating her. In his mind, they were, hitting it off and having a good time. They never were. So he has this kind of he's damaged mentally. There's some fracturedness in his mindset. Excuse me. And so people who maybe can relate to that, because honestly, those are relatable issues. People who have those kind of mental issues can see that in the Joker, and they see the way he's acting, because he's hurting people, he's killing people in this movie. And someone who can relate to Joker in that mental capacity can say, "Oh wow, he's just like me. I should do something like that. Maybe that's what I should do. The people who wronged me, that's what I should do to them." And I know it's not realistic to say that about everybody, but there are some people who do think this way. I think we're so narrow-minded at the idea that, oh, come on, Will. I mean, you're overthinking it. Nobody's like that. You'd be surprised how people really think, because people are so good at putting up a front. For example, with me, a part of my testimony is that I battled. I had a fierce battle with depression, and anybody who deals with depression knows that one of the things you kind of learn how to do or learn how to master is putting up a front. You're smiling, you're laughing, you're making other people laugh, when inside you're all messed up. And you learn how to do that really well, because some people know how to pick up a fake smile, and you learn how to put out a real looking smile without people suspecting you. And it's just that kind of thing. You put up a front. And I'm just saying that so I can say that people who maybe think this way, think this negatively, or even have some dark twisted thoughts, because again, there are people like that, they can simply put out a front and say, "Oh no, I'm good, I'm fine, you have a great day, bye." They have the brightest smile, and they're off doing their thing, but in their mind, they're thinking about hurting people. They, God forbid, thinking about hurting you or whatever, because they don't like you or whatever, or they cannot process the idea of someone being mean to them without there being some form of justice, and they want to take that justice in their hands. Seeing someone like the Joker can kind of like fan the flames of that desire to take justice in your own hands and hurt those people because you feel like no one else will do it, or at the very least they won't do it the way you would do it. So again, we have to be very, very careful on how we consume things, and even though that is a risk, we cannot blame the movie industry. We cannot blame them, because they're just doing their jobs, and honestly, some of these directors don't care about how you or I feel about certain films. When we discussed horror movies a couple of podcasts ago, I've talked about how I refuse to see a movie about demon possession like The Exorcist. The director doesn't care how I feel, because as far as I know, besides the new It chapters 1 and 2, The Exorcist is one of the most successful horror movies of all time. And movies involving demon possession are honestly still a hot topic in horror movies. So when those kind of films come out, people are going to go and run to the theaters to see it. It doesn't matter what I think. I think those movies are horrible and they shouldn't be made. Because people get tempted to, especially young people, they get tempted to try to interact with those spirits and, mess with Ouija boards and stuff like that, which is what something I highly I am so sorry, guys. Like I said, I'm tired. It's something that I highly recommend against when I talk to my youth about it, my youth group. Because we're in the October season. We're in the month of October. We're in the season where everything is spooky and scary and stuff like that, and they start getting interested in that stuff. And I always tell them that's something that they should really not get involved with. At the end, though, it's up to them. And if they choose to, I warn them. But back to what I was saying, the director, all he or she cares about is making their art, quote unquote, because I have to say it like that, because art is subjective. What they think is art, I may not think it is, and make their money. It's not their responsibility how I receive the film. Now, people, of course, they want you to receive their film well, so possibilities of sequels and stuff like that. And which, by the way, the Joker did very well. There's people, the critics may have mixed reviews, but that movie made a lot of money in the box office. And so I would not be surprised if they continue the story of the Joker and, how the whole Batman story, because that connects to the killing of Bruce Wayne's mom and dad. So it just really sets it up. So I don't know if that's setting up an entirely new Batman universe. I don't know. But I have no doubt that they're going to continue on with that kind of filmmaking, with that movie in particular. So here's the thing, and I think I said it twice already. We're not responsible for how you consume, but we are responsible for how we create. And I think what directors should do, in the same vein of, I'm sorry guys, I was just adjusting myself. I think what directors should do, in the same vein as what I think some artists should do, is be considerate that more than ever, we're acknowledging mental health issues. More than ever. Which is a good thing. I'm not saying it's bad, because we can't pretend that mental issues aren't issues. What we need to consider, though, is that we should be careful on what we put out there because of the influence. And I understand what I said before, that an artist shouldn't be limited. At the same time, all I am asking is just to put heavy thought in what you decide to put out. I know at the end of the day, it's not your fault how people receive your content. But because we know how insane people are, especially today, especially with social media and different forums where people can just like vent their personal feelings and all that stuff, we got to be careful, because some of these people who do murder, who do hurt people, often will cite, some art, whether it's music or a film or TV, whatever. They'll cite something as an inspiration for the act that they committed. Oftentimes you'll hear them say, "Oh, the devil made me do it," or whatever the case may be. As a Christian, I can tell you that I believe 100% that the devil and the enemy is in some of the music we listen to. He is in some of the TV shows that are out there. He is in certain films that are out there. And some people who are not Christian or don't have the mental capacity, or at least some kind of spiritual inclination, will see this kind of film, and there's no filter. There's no suspension of reality from fiction, and they'll absorb it in a sense of like, I can do this. I want to do this. And I understand everyone is flawed, right? We all have problems. We all get frustrated, Christian or not. We all have these feelings of sometimes, man, I just want to break this guy's teeth because they're annoying me, or they did something that really hurt you, whatever. And I get it. I honestly get it. But what I'm saying is, you shouldn't get to the point where you want to take somebody's life because you're so frustrated with them, or because you've seen it in a movie that somebody got so frustrated that they killed someone. Or we shouldn't get to that point. We should have a system in where if we are angry with someone, if we are like frustrated, first of all, you have to know yourself. And I know a lot of people in my family, in my friendships, people who have anger issues, and sometimes they do want to hurt people, and they have systems. Some of them walk away, some others count to 10 while breathing, some of them hit the wall, punch holes in walls, which is better than punching somebody in the face, because they're not trying to hurt nobody to that point, because they know it can cause trouble, despite the fact that it would make them feel good. Movies like The Joker I'm not saying they are, but they can influence a person to say, you know what, F it, I'm gonna hurt this person or worse. And for the record, I personally, I don't think the Joker is that bad, but I can see where the concern comes from, because I could probably point to movies that are way worse. I keep hitting the bag. I could point to movies that are way worse than the Joker in terms of violence that could probably trigger something else in people to do so. So, the way I see it is this way. For those who do not suffer a mental issue, more or less, you should already know how to consume a movie. You consume it for entertainment. And if it inspires you, let it inspire you in a positive way. Like, if it inspires you to, make yourself better, like dissect the inspiration. Like, you watched the film, now dissect it. How did it make you feel? If it made you feel good in a positive way, exercise that in your life somehow. Especially like if you watched an inspirational film. If you watch an action film and it's like, oh man, I want to be the hero. You know what? Being a hero could be just as simple as, complimenting someone, giving someone who's struggling some money, or buying them a meal. You could be their hero for that day. Even as a Christian, even something as simple as praying for somebody. And if you have the ability to help them in any way, help them. Let it inspire you in that degree. And for those who do suffer mental issues, I pray that you are careful with how you consume a movie and realize that there's a difference between reality and fiction. More times than not, when you're watching a movie, you should be able to suspend your disbelief and just enjoy the film. That's the main focus usually of movies anyway, unless they're, a documentary or a biopic or whatever the case is. Just be careful, because I understand fully that those kind of films and forms of art, music, and all that stuff can truly make you want to do something that's not very pleasant. And that's something that we're ultimately trying to avoid. We don't want to see you in jail, or worse, we don't want to see you dead. We're not trying to visit you in prison, and we're not trying to, put you underground. But family, tell me what you think. Do you think movies are influential, or are we just becoming more and more sensitive? Do you think films like The Joker have the potential to make people hurt other people? Or is it just all in the mind? Are we just over worried? Are we just worried over nothing? Let me know what you guys think, okay? But like I said, I'm surprised I got this out of the way, but I wanted to because I didn't want no more delays with these podcasts. I love you guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I will catch you on the next episode of the Cup of Curious podcast.
Thanks for listening to the show. Have a suggestion for the next episode? Want Will to answer a question? Want to recommend a drink, or tell him to give the voiceover guy a pay raise? Then shoot an email at CupofCurious@gmail.com or slide in our DMs on Instagram at CupofCurious. Remember, stay thirsty and stay curious. Thanks for listening to the show. Have a suggestion for the next episode? Want Will to answer a question? Want to recommend a drink, or tell him to give that awesome voiceover guy a pay raise? Then shoot an email to CupofCurious@gmail.com or slide in our DMs on Instagram at CupofCurious. Remember, stay thirsty and stay curious. Thanks for listening to the show. Have a suggestion for the next episode? Want Will to answer a question? Want to recommend a drink, or tell him to give the voiceover guy a pay raise? Then shoot an email at CupofCurious@gmail.com or slide in our DMs on Instagram at CupofCurious. Remember, stay thirsty and stay curious.